Good afternoon, Sales Academy YouTubers, followers, podcasters, listeners, tweeters, Facebookers, and everything in between us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. So not just sharing as in hitting share, because if you want to do that, I'd really appreciate you doing it. Hit follow, subscribe, listen to all the future episodes and stuff, and listen to the back catalog. There's loads of them. But sharing your time, right, and sharing your world with me by inviting me in, having a listen to this stuff, and maybe some of these things change the way you think, because that's the whole point of this podcast. Think and act differently, right? So today's musing is around a subject, and I kind of ummed and ahed on what to call this episode, really, because one of the things we do in Sales Academy is strategically plan. We teach people how to plan in their business, and whether it be sales, whether it be business, finance, marketing, there's all about building plans, right? There's so much about what we do is putting structure and implementing structure and accountability and support and all that sort of stuff in with businesses and people and their habits and their behaviors. But the title of this musing is called Stumbling Purposely. Stumbling Purposefully. Purposefully, yeah, stumbling purposefully. Let's call it that. Stumbling purposefully. And the reason for that is, quite fundamentally, plans, not all plans go to plan. Right. So this is coming from somebody who teaches strategic planning, who works with planning over, 20 plus years in business and the industry, teaching planning and corporate and small business and everything. It's like, not all plans go to plan. And what's the military term? Oh God, something in the face of plans. Plans crumble with the first contact with the enemy, or something along those lines. I can't remember. I remember the other one, the 7 P's of military planning, right? Prior planning and preparation prevent piss poor performance. I remember that was drummed into me at a very early age, and it's like lots of people in Sibley Street remember piss poor performance, but don't remember the P's before that, funnily enough. But yeah, not all plans go to plan. And I look at some of these, the big hitters and the shakers and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not going to mention any names, but you know what I'm talking about. These big hitting guys that are, you got to do this, you got to be there all the time. Right? And listen, don't get me wrong. I can fall into that camp at times of being motivational, inspirational, blah, blah, and lots of stuff. But I try and keep it as real as I possibly can as well, and authentic and just genuinely about life and business. And I hear them like, keep quiet about your goals, smash them, and let the praise come from the results and all that sort of stuff. And it's like these kind of messages. Having worked with loads of people, hundreds, thousands of people over the years, when it comes to planning and setting goals, grown-ups and adults are not very good at it, to be blunt. We're not very good at setting specific goals. We're not very good at setting, smashing all big, hairy, audacious goals. We're not that necessarily that good at setting to-do lists, and completing to-do lists or whatever it might be. So whatever the format that you take, just understand that we're not always the bloody best at it. But if we're comparing ourselves with somebody else, we're kind of living a fake comparison. That's not living a fake life. It's living a fake comparison. I had a brilliant phrase the other day, which was, and I've heard it many, many times before, but it was like, don't compare your behind the scenes with somebody else's show reel. And I can't remember who said it, but it wasn't me. I just heard it. And yeah, it was brilliant, because people put these plans together and they start with great intentions and great focus and direction and discipline and habits. And then what tends to happen is we just stumble. And then I talk to other people that have got these plans going and they're operating these plans. And there is a very tiny percentage of people that are just so laser focused, they will smash anything. But the majority of people, when I talk to them about their plans, like, how's everything going with the quarterly plan? How's everything going with the 10-year plan? Where are we up to in terms of the 3-year? They're like, well, yeah, I haven't really kept an eye on that sort of. Oh, right. Well, let's have a look, shall we? And then we have a look, and they're achieving more than what they understood they have. They are moving in the direction of travel that they actually set themselves when they started to put out these goals and these intentions, but they haven't necessarily religiously every single day stuck to it and hit kind of used it as a stick, if you like. But at the same time, they have allowed their subconscious brain to work on this stuff. So that's not just stumbling along. To me, that's stumbling along purposefully. That's stumbling purposely, because we move from one situation to the next, one day to the next, one challenge or success to the next, you know. And it's like failure keeps hitting, and those challenges keep hitting, those mistakes keep hitting us. They're bloody good indications that we're actually moving forward and we're not standing still and we're not dying, right? Because like a tree, if you're not growing, you're dying. Same in life, same in business. So those stepping stones, whether they be labeled as success or failure, wins or losses or whatever, they're brilliant indications of you stumbling purposefully forward. Because when you start anything, you start as a beginner, right? You start as a novice, and you've got to be passionate. And one of my other podcasts was be comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? It's like, you've got to be passionate about not knowing, passionate about feeling inadequate, passionate about whether or not you've got enough in you to actually do this, whether or not you could learn this, passion about patience and resilience, right? And that muscle and that energetic internal reflection, development, analysis, acknowledgement, recognition, all of that sort of stuff is a tool. Just like you getting on the bike or getting on the treadmill and stuff and running, this emotional intelligence muscle that we need to grow and develop and grow and develop and grow and work out, right? And dodge the punches and stuff and understand how we bounce back. And I was talking to one of our 4 children yesterday about their bounce back ability. And I acknowledged this with one of our children yesterday, just briefly, but it needed acknowledging, because this person 18 months ago was bouncing back a lot slower. And whether that be past stuff, you know, whether that be internal belief structure, whether that be maturity, whether that be getting into teenagers and having more responsibility, more challenges, therefore the speed that they actually move at and stuff, and the momentum of things that they do and the cause and effect of that, it's becoming more real. There's a whole number of reasons, but fundamentally what needed acknowledging was this simple message that your bounce back ability from that challenge, from that conversation, from that situation was brilliant, was so much faster. Your state of mind back, your attitude, your energy level, everything shifted back into your gear, your purposeful gear, much, much quicker. Now, I have these conversations with adults. I have these conversations with myself, right? Because my bounce back ability is good, but can it be better? Yeah. Are there times when my bounce back ability just wants to fuck off and go somewhere else because not today, people? Yeah. And what does that make me? A failure? No, it makes me fucking human. It makes me real. It makes me genuinely me. Just as you are genuinely you, right? With all your foibles and peccadillos, as well as all your brilliance, right? And all of those combined are your brilliance. I was talking to somebody earlier on about, they're in the early stages of creating investigating creating a neurodiverse networking scenario. So this is kind of business audiences for people with neurodiversity. And it's like, what a fantastic idea. But it's come from the fact that this person is in different networking groups in the business communities, and they're struggling with the way that people function, because it's not necessarily how they feel they function, and they're not processing stuff in the same way, and therefore sometimes feel inadequate themselves, sometimes feel they're way ahead, sometimes just don't get it. It doesn't compute, right? And it's like, this isn't about highlighting that we're different, because that in itself can be a status symbol or a stigma for some. But it's more about understanding that if there is a different need or a different way of communicating or a different style or a different format to that structure, whatever it might be, we all need structure, right? So interestingly enough, in that conversation, I've known this person for years, and they've been on training courses, and we've gone through different programs and stuff, but fundamentally, this person's developing their version of what they need that works for them. And what I challenged them today and celebrated them today when I was having a conversation with them in the session was, what you're doing is creating a structure that works for potentially not just yourself, but for potentially not neurodiverse people. Because if you're saying you really find it easier to do it this way, if you find that actually this works for you, these mechanisms and these tools that you're building become tools in the toolbox for your potential audiences of the future. Because the chances are, if it works for you and you struggle in these other areas, then there's every chance that it could work for other people as well. So you're not just building these tools for you, you're building assets for your future audiences, right? Now, did she plan that from the start? No, but she's stumbling forward purposefully through this process of learning and failing and learning and failing and getting better and sharpening the saw. Stephen Covey talks about in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, sharpen your saw daily because you can't cut down trees with blunt saws, right? So how are you moving forward? How are you purposefully stumbling forward? Because your goals on your plan, your focus areas on your plan, if they're not changing, it probably indicates you're standing still. Now, don't get me wrong. My 10-year plan, my 1-year plan, I don't just change goals for the sake of it. I put a strategy together for an overriding strategy to support me in my life a couple of years ago, which was increase revenue, increase time, increase health. And I wanted to increase the time I get back from my businesses. I wanted to do that and accept that if I take time back, I might not make the same amount of money. And I was like, why am I accepting that? So I want to increase time back, but also I want to keep the revenue the same. And I thought, well, everything in the world is getting more expensive. So why do I want to accept that? And I'm like, okay, so I want to increase the time back from my business, but I also want to increase the revenue. And then I felt this little ping in my head and go, whoa, that's uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable because of what? Is that, am I uncomfortable with that because of my own self-worth? Do I not believe I'm worth more? Do I not believe more years and more experience and more results with clients gives me an ability to actually go, actually, I do deserve more. I do deserve to do this better. But then from that, I went to, well, how can I? Then the excitement kicks in. Then the better questioning and the better internal coach kicks in, because it's like, okay, so how do you do that then? How do you build this differently so that you can get more time back, but increase the revenue? So that means leveraging your time, but also potentially collaborations and partnerships and increasing the team and growing the team in the Sales Academy, but differently to how we've done it in the past. Now I'm getting excited. Now I'm thinking about all these areas where I can focus my time, energy, the thought process to increase the time I get back, increase the revenue. The whole point of those two things is that I can increase my health. So each of those goals and each of those focus areas start to challenge what I'm doing and habits and disciplines on a daily basis. So look at me stumbling forward purposefully. Like now the bike train has been purchased, the road bike's in place, the pedals and the cleats and stuff. These are all actions that I've taken and purchases that I've made to now make it possible for me to stumble purposefully towards that 100-mile race that I'm going to run in May. Now, every single day I'm getting the gear to make sure that there's no excuses. And every single time one of those things happen, it's a tick in the box to help me move forward. I'm again stumbling forward. I'm not racing. I'm not perfect. I'm not, 100% on it all the time. I am moving forward day by day, progress by progress, action by action, decision by decision, failure by failure, win by win, stumbling purposefully. I want you to think about that. I'd love you to reach out and have a conversation with me about how often in your life, how you feel, how is it showing up, this stumbling purposefully? That's all for today, guys. That's the musing. Have a brilliant afternoon. Have a brilliant week. Enjoy the time that you have. Enjoy the health that you have. And let's have a conversation if you want to take this further. Because why not? There you go. Why not? Peace out. Love you all.